If it tilt a little bit, it's showtime.
Welcome to another episode of the 4-on-1. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Chris.
I'm Diana.
And I'm Marcus.
It's been a while since the whole gang's been back together. I'm excited for tonight's episode. We're going to have a little fun, make fools of ourselves, per usual, and then we're going to talk teachers pay teachers. But let's get started. If you are a fan of the show, you know that we have a slight obsession with accents. And by that, I mean, we really, really wish that we had great accents, that we could fake a cool accent, and we all pretty much are terrible at it. So for tonight's game, we are all going to be assigned, I guess, an accent, and then asked to say something that's not typical. So like for me, I can't do accents. I can do a Boston accent if I'm talking about parking my car at Harvard Yard, but like if you asked me to read something like off a recipe, I couldn't do it. So let's all do that. Who wants to get started?
I feel like Chris has been bragging about his ability to do Jon Snow. So, Jon Snow, you know nothing. What do you got?
All right, let's do this. I've got a filter on for effect. And anyway, so what I'm going to do, I've always, Jon Snow, like, he's amazing. And anyways, I wish I could talk like him, but I can't. But I watched a YouTube video to learn how. I've improved, guys. So in honor of winter has came. The winters came. And if anybody understands that more, it's Queen Elsa. So today I'm going to be reading lyrics from Let It Go as Jon Snow. Here we go. Don't let them in. Don't let them see. Be the good girl you always have to be. Conceal, don't feel. Don't let them know. Well, now they know. Let it go. Let it go. Can't hold it back anymore. Let it go. Let it go. Turn away and slam the door.
What? That was something. I too will be doing my best impression of Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. Please hold as I get into character.
If I should stay, I would only be in your way. So I'll go, but I know I'll think of you every step of the way. And I will always love you. I will always love you. You, my darling, you. Bittersweet memories, that is all I'm taking with me. So, goodbye. Please, don't cry. We both know I'm not what you need.
For the viewers, at one point, it was not a contest. Marcus slayed me. I feel like I held my own, and I would be curious. I feel like some people would choose my Jon Snow over your Jon Snow. Nice with the background music, though. That was well played.
Michelle, does this mean we don't have to do it? I don't know what's going on, but I feel like that's all the time we have, folks. Only the guys are participating in this round.
Have either of you watched Game of Thrones? I don't think that's what he sounds like at all.
I'm from the north. Let's hear your accent, ladies.
By all means, show us how it's done.
Just to be clear, I wasn't talking trash. You win. I bow down.
And just to be clear, I'm not doing this.
Okay, so I'll go for it. But I didn't like watch a YouTube video to prepare for this. So this makes me think about my friend Matt Redman from high school. He's hilarious. But I have memories of us in math class, sorry, Mr. Strayer, reading pamphlets, like the kind of booklets that you would have to sell like overpriced chocolate from when you were in sports teams and stuff in high school. And we would read the descriptions of like the caramel-filled nougat, whatever, and we thought that they were really hilarious. So I'm going to read to you, as a nod to Matt Redman, the back of a box of tea, because I love tea. I love tea. I've been watching a lot of Downton Abbey, and this is the best I can do. Here we go. Ready? Okay. In 1945, Ruth Bigelow created our first tea, Constant Comment, a strong, flavorful black tea blended with aromatic orange peel and sweet warming spices. Today, oh, my computer died. Today, all right, you get the idea. It's the best I got.
Okay. How about I do Australian? Rise Up Lights. Bonus points for any of our viewers that know what that reference is to. Sorry to disappoint, guys, but let's transition to Teachers Pay Teachers. This is a conversation that this group has been wanting to have for a while. We start to have this debate, and then we're like, let's save it for the episode. So no more waiting. For those of you that are not familiar, Teachers Pay Teachers is a website where teachers can post digital materials and content, and other teachers can get on and pay to download it. And this group has some pretty strong opinions about the merits of a program like that. So let's go. Who wants to get started?
I'll start. One of the things I will talk about that I actually like about Teachers Pay Teachers, there is sort of I'll call it a culture within teaching where teachers have this sort of martyr effect, and everything that they do should be just for free because that's what's best for kids, and they're consistently putting themselves last. If they're designing content that is really, really good, and there's a demand for it, I feel like they should, one, put it out there and be compensated.
Yeah, Chris, I'll agree with part of what you're saying. I think we are expecting a lot of teachers, more than we ever have, but we're not giving teachers the resources that they need to respond to the pressure of performing and producing content. However, I think what you leave out of that conversation is, let's be honest, let's talk about work for hire. So when a teacher is creating something for their district, do they even have the right to sell it? I think it depends on where you work, but I also think that that's sort of like attacking this conversation from the wrong angle. Why do we have to rely on something to bring in materials for our classroom that requires an individual teacher to pay for things for their classroom, something like instructional materials? And I know that teachers spend money on things for their classroom, but that to me is not an argument to continue it. And I also know that districts will pay for Teachers Pay Teachers district accounts, but I still don't think that speaks to the broken system that puts us in that situation in the first place.
Yeah, in my experience with Teachers Pay Teachers and what I've seen firsthand, my experience has been more along the line. I actually haven't seen a lot of true curriculum-based things. Most of what I've seen in my role has been more along the lines of sort of classroom protocols and sort of day-to-day activities that teachers felt a need to purchase because they look nice or they were designed in a way that was visually and aesthetically interesting to the teacher, or to the teacher thinking about what their kids would like. So, you know, I guess I can see where a person would say that thing, that lunch manipulative, is really cool and pretty and well designed, and I think the kids would really like that, and so they purchase it. Basically, under the belief that they themselves couldn't create something like that, and you know, from my perspective, I feel like you can. And I feel like you should want to design and create things for your own betterment and for your own ownership of the thing. But yeah, my gears are grinding. I got to hear what you guys are thinking.
So, okay. And to both Diana and Marcus, like, in a perfect world, yes. In a perfect utopian world, it would be wonderful if teachers didn't have to buy their resources. It would be wonderful if teachers, even if they think they can't, or maybe even if they think they can, have the time. You know, it's just like, you know, the amount of time it would take to create something like that may be worth the $1 investment. I'm with you, Diana, that like teachers shouldn't have to buy that. And as a science teacher, I was consistently buying stuff for my labs and different things, and it shouldn't be that way. And as a teacher, you should have all of the resources. But unfortunately, I'm teaching my kids right now, and so I need stuff for the now. And you know, I agree. I wish we didn't have to, but I don't think that that's the reality.
See, I don't know though. I'm going to push back against that because first, I think that world actually does exist with open ed resources. There are so many resources and platforms out there that give you openly licensed content that allows you to modify and remix and reuse in a way that makes sense for your classroom. And when I look on Teachers Pay Teachers, not everything is licensed in a way that makes it easy for you to use it. I've had conversations with teachers who have said, look, I can't spend any more money on this. I've spent so much money on resources for my classroom. Like, what can I do differently? Or, hey, I bought this and I can't get it to work for whatever reason, and now I can't use it. So, you know, not everything on Teachers Pay Teachers is licensed in a way that allows you to share it and remix it, or even if it isn't licensed in a way that prevents it, it's still not maybe easy to do that. And then the other point too is that, yeah, like, I know the reality of it is that we don't have time and money and resources to make everything, the systems work in the way that would best serve our educators, so they can serve our kids. But in my mind, contributing to Teachers Pay Teachers and saying, you can have my stuff, but you have to pay me, you're taking money out of another educator's pocket, and you're not contributing to the kind of culture that says education is sharing. We have to have each other's backs. And when I put a resource on Teachers Pay Teachers and I'm asking another educator to pay for it, I feel like that's contributing to that culture that makes it hard for us. Open ed resources is the answer to this.
Yeah. So I like that. I like that road that Diana's going down there. I'm going to further complicate it and suggest that, you know, and this is not a popular point, but if we're going to model, speaking of culture, if we're going to model for students, you know, what does a student think when they see something like this? When they know that they know the teacher didn't make this, didn't build this, didn't create this themselves, and that the teacher just sort of bought something to serve that purpose. What does a student think? I know that only complicates the conversation, but I would have to believe that a student is going to see that as, to some extent, a shortcut. And if a student thinks the teacher's taking shortcuts, then how does that teacher have any pull with their own students? Because what do we say to our kids? Don't take shortcuts. Don't plagiarize. Don't cheat. Don't take other people's work and claim it as your own. And if teachers are going to do that and model that as okay, then I feel like that sets up a really bad dynamic in the classroom.
Is there any other field where they have this conversation where you would just be expected to create things for other people to do their job and not get compensated for it? Sometimes I'm pro OER, I'm pro sharing, but I've also used Teachers Pay Teachers. I get a lot of design things from there, clip art and fonts and things that are licensed to be reused and I can use in my own stuff to create and make my work easier. I think with anything, it's hard to draw like this line in the sand as good or bad, but it just makes me wonder, kind of what Chris said at the beginning, this idea that teachers are expected to be martyrs in a way. Is that the case? I tend to think that no other field would have this conversation.
So, I mean, a construction worker, for example, would need the tools to do the job, and would probably have to purchase those. Diana, talking about, I've had teachers too that have purchased stuff on Teachers Pay Teachers and it wasn't shared correctly or different things and they weren't able to use it. Along those same lines, and I agree, OER is amazing, but I've also had teachers use OER resources and then the link ends up being broken and different things like that. And Marcus, I mean, my teachers used McGraw-Hill or Pearson or whatever other resource we provide, and the students didn't seem to have a problem when they were using some book publisher. So, I'd rather put money in teachers' pockets than Pearson.
And I'm not suggesting that we should all create things from scratch. That is not what I'm suggesting at all. I'm suggesting that there's a better way to do it. And to your martyr point, I agree. I agree that we expect so much of teachers. So I'm saying that the fact that Teachers Pay Teachers is so popular, because it is. It's so popular because there's a pressure on our teachers. And so instead of forcing them to be martyrs by saying hey, we recognize that you're spending a lot of your own money on materials for your classroom, we're just going to let it continue. I think that we need to really take a hard look at what we are giving our teachers for resources, and the resource of time and money is part of that conversation. If we are pressuring and expecting our teachers to design content, then why aren't we giving them time, and why aren't we compensating them for it within our own districts? I'd rather spend time and resources and money to help my teachers grow as designers of instructional content and help them curate the content that we can find through OER. I'd much rather do that to empower us and to grow our own and to build our skills rather than just making a one-time purchase, because that to me doesn't help us grow skills. It doesn't help us design with personality. But if we rethought the way we use those resources, we could be building up our skills for our educators.
Yes. Diana used all the words better than I did. I'm all about everything you just said. I love that. About, working on our own skills and improving at the craft of designing and creating content. Yes. Chris, to your point about, the textbook content versus Teachers Pay Teachers, who's vetting the content on Teachers Pay Teachers? I don't know. I don't spend time on that site. I don't buy things there. Is there some panel of professionals that is vetting the content on Teachers Pay Teachers? I don't know that there is. Pearson and McGraw-Hill and pick your publisher, they have paid professionals that are vetting the content there. So I would tend to trust something that was coming from a textbook, maybe a little bit more than something I might pick up on Teachers Pay Teachers.
So Marcus, that's the best argument against Teachers Pay Teachers. Who's vetting it? I mean, there's like an Amazon marketplace with stars. So like essentially other teachers are. I understand that, like, for example, a textbook publisher is research proven. But along the lines of what Diana was saying, train your teachers to understand what is good content and what is not. And they can vet, and they can be the instructional designer for their class to determine what is good and what is not. And if they continue to bring in bad stuff via OER, because not everything there is perfect either, or whether it's Teachers Pay Teachers, then there's an issue. I'm all for, like I said, training our teachers and teaching them how to remix and maximize the use of OER. But not all teachers are there, and I've got to teach science tomorrow. So, that doesn't help me now.
I think the conversation about vetting has to happen regardless of Teachers Pay Teachers or OER. Because no, the content on Teachers Pay Teachers is not vetted, but most OER content's not vetted either unless you pay for a service that vets it. And even then, there's only so much that an outside person is going to be able to do, who doesn't know your students and their specific needs in your specific classroom. So I think regardless, in this age, whether teachers are paying for resources or they're getting openly licensed free resources, I think it is our responsibility to spend a lot of time learning and discussing how we evaluate and determine whether something is high quality. Because I don't think that is a skill set that's going to go away regardless of where this conversation ends up.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely have to have conversations about what high quality content looks like, what high quality digital content looks like. But that isn't an issue for me. I feel like teachers are professionals and they know what's going to work for their students, and they're making good choices. Even if they're not like consciously saying, I'm going to vet this through a process, they're still evaluating the resources that they're using in their class. But it just kills me. I cannot get past a teacher paying for instructional materials for their own classroom. That just doesn't sit right with me, and I think there's a better way.
Well, I think we could probably debate this all night. And the one thing that we can highlight that while we may be pro Teachers Pay Teachers or against it, I think we can all agree that, there is a strong need for all of us to be competent evaluators of digital content, being able to sift through the ever-growing kind of expanse of digital resources, and being able to make smart decisions about that. This has been a great conversation, guys. Any final thoughts? Final thoughts other than I totally rocked a scrunchy half pony during this entire episode. Bringing the 90s back.
I do have a final thought. Thank you for bringing that up. Hit me, baby, one more time. Looking like Britney Spears.
Oh, baby, how was I supposed to know?
Oops, we did it again.
And that's the 411.